Welcome, dreamers, to the realm where time whispers through dust and silence. Tonight, we travel not by map or compass, but by the trace of mystery drawn into the land itself, etched by unseen hands, in a desert where rain forgets to fall, yet the earth remembers everything. Beneath the eternal gaze of stars, hidden in the arid heart of Peru, lie the Nazca Lines, geoglyphs of breathtaking scale and unknowable intent. Are they ancient calendars, celestial messages, ritual pathways for gods who walked only in sky? Before we embark on this journey through time's sacred if these ancient whispers resonate with your soul, let your presence be known through a gentle light, and join our circle of dreamers by subscribing to continue these nightly journeys into history's hidden realms. Share with us, fellow dreamers, from which corner of the world you're joining tonight's contemplation. Let the global community of history's mysteries connect across time zones as we drift together into the past. Now, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let us begin our passage across the desert where giants wrote poetry in the dust. The Nazca Desert does not whisper in the wind, for there is no wind. It does not hum with life, for life here has learned to be still. Yet beneath this stillness, the land breathes with forgotten stories. To step upon this soil is to step upon a canvas, one not painted by brush or hand, but carved by ancient will, stretching across hundreds of square kilometers. The Nazca Plateau hides its secrets in plain view. Spirals, geometric forms, and creatures so vast they only make sense when seen from above, as if crafted for the eyes of birds, or perhaps gods. The hummingbird, etched delicately into the earth, spans nearly 100 feet. The spider, stretched wide across desert skin, measures over 150. A monkey curls its spiral tail in eternal stillness. A tree with no leaves. A man with outstretched arms and eyes that seem to look upward. Each line is shallow, scraped just inches below the surface, revealing the pale sediment beneath the oxidized crust of the desert's skin. And yet, these marks have remained unbothered by centuries, untroubled by weather, preserved by absence of rain, of erosion, of time itself. Some say the desert sleeps, but perhaps it simply dreams, and these dreams are written in lines too vast for human eyes to read until the sky lends its gaze. We drift above this sacred emptiness, tonight not as scholars, not as skeptics, but as listeners, for the land is trying to tell us something only those who surrender to stillness may begin to hear. Let us move deeper, dreamer, into the realm of the ones who carved skyward thoughts into sacred earth. Long before the Inca, long before Spanish ships broke the spine of continents, the Nazca people flourished in this arid cradle. From around 200 BCE to 600 CE, they built a civilization that defied the dryness. Their mastery of underground aqueducts called puquios channeled water where none should have flowed. They made fragile, vibrant pottery. They wove complex textiles. They buried their dead with care and ceremony. And they carved the desert with intention. But they left no written language, no scrolls, no stone stele, no etched instructions to decode their lines. What they left instead is absence, a space for wonder. And in that space, theories grow. Were these lines ritual offerings to deities above? Were they sacred pathways for pilgrims who walked them in ceremony? Were they a kind of massive astronomical almanac, aligning with the sun, the stars, and the coming of rain? Or were they something else entirely, messages not meant to be understood, but only remembered? To the Nazca, the desert was not empty. It was sacred, a place where the gods could descend, or gaze down, a place where the land itself could become a temple. If carved with care, we do not hear their voices, but we see their footprints so massive, they become geometry itself. In their silence, they have drawn us into a mystery that refuses resolution. And perhaps that is the point. Stay with me, dear dreamer, as we walk a line that loops through time. To create a geoglyph, hundreds of meters long without modern tools or aerial guidance seems impossible. And yet, it was done. The Nazca carved their visions with wooden stakes, simple ropes, and sacred patience. They walked the outlines slowly, as one walks through ritual. Their plans were vast, but their tools were humble. And the most haunting thing is that they would never see their work in full. Imagine drawing a hummingbird the size of a football field, but never rising high enough to admire its wings. Imagine laying out a monkey with perfect spirals, while your eyes remain grounded. The Nazca must have trusted the vision. Or perhaps the vision was never for them, but for something above. Theories abound that they were signaling the gods, that they were tracking stars, that they were communicating with the heavens through geometry. There is beauty in all of these. And yet, I offer a softer thought. Perhaps they were not trying to be seen, but simply trying to express, to leave something of their world, of their reverence, their their reverenced, their humility etched into the earth in shapes too large to hold, too quiet to boast, and too mysterious to decay. We do not need to solve the Nazca Lines, we only need to feel them. Now rest, dear traveler of shadows and shapes, for the night has only begun, and the desert has much more to show us. For centuries, the Nazca Lines slept, seen only by sand beetles, wandering shepherds, and winds that dared not stir them. The people who carved them had long vanished into history's hush. Their aqueducts lay buried, their temples returned to dust, and the drawings too vast to grasp from the ground remained as invisible to the eye as whispers are to the stone. Then came the 20th century. In the 1920s, from above a rumbling biplane, something stirred in the mind of the pilot. Below him stretched the endless canvas of southern Peru, but not barren. Something was written in the earth lines, figures, shapes impossible to understand and impossible to ignore. It was the first time human eyes, riding upon wings of metal, glimpsed what the Nazca had drawn for the sky. And suddenly, the desert was no longer silent. It spoke in riddles, and the world began to listen. Archaeologists, adventurers, poets, and mystics would follow. But that pilot, unknowingly, had stepped into a riddle older than maps. It is often said that some truths must be viewed from a distance to be understood. But perhaps the Nazca had no interest in being understood. Perhaps, like dreams, their messages were meant to be felt, not translated. We drift now, like that first pilot, watching below as the desert opens, its slow, golden script to the gaze of clouds. Not all who wandered the line sought answers through tools and trowels. One woman, more dreamer than scholar, more listener than excavator, would become the voice of the Nazca's silent language. Her name was Maria Reich. Born in Germany, she came to Peru and never truly left. The desert claimed her curiosity, and she, in turn, devoted her life to its defense. While others saw the lines as curiosities or clues, Maria treated them as sacred verses of a cosmic poem. For decades, she walked the desert with a measuring stick in one hand and a broom in the other, sweeping sand from ancient grooves, calculating angles, drawing maps with monastic care. She believed the lines were a kind of astronomical calendar marking stellar alignments, the sacred rhythm of sky and sun. But more than theories, Maria gave the lines respect. She gave them patience. She gave them reverence. The locals called her the Lady of the Lines. She lived alone in a small hut beside the hummingbird, sleeping within view of the figures that stirred her soul. Thanks to her, the Nazca Lines were protected, studied, and ultimately recognized as a world treasure. Maria Reich did not solve the mystery, but she taught us to treat it kindly, to walk gently across the echoes of a civilization, to listen more than explain. And in that way, she became part of the lines herself. Each glyph whispers differently. The spiral-tailed monkey, etched with sinuous grace, appears playful at first glance, yet its form, so perfectly proportional, suggests deeper understanding. Some believe it mimics constellations. Others say it maps the movement of celestial bodies. The spider, its thin legs stretched impossibly long, appears more than an earthly creature. Certain species of spider depicted were unknown in the region, hinting perhaps at knowledge beyond borders, or metaphor beyond biology. The hummingbird, delicate yet vast, suggests speed, precision, and fragility drawn in a land where such birds are rarely seen. The tree, bare of fruit, may speak of drought. The hands, with one open and one clenched, may speak of duality. The astronaut, a humanoid with round eyes and raised hand, seems to wave from another world. But none of these interpretations are definitive, and that, perhaps, is the magic. The Nazca did not create these figures for us. They were not left like instructions or epics. They were offerings, and in offerings, the meaning lies not in explanation, but in presence. We look upon these lines as dreamers do. We do not ask, what does it mean? We ask instead, what does it stir in me? And that dreamer is where the real answer lives. Most things in this world fade. Rain wears away the mountain. Wind reshapes the canyon. Time erases the face of even the greatest monument. But the Nazca Lines remain their secret. A climate so dry, so windless, so stilled that nature forgets to erase. The dark, oxidized stones on the desert surface hide a lighter sand just beneath. By simply removing the top layer, the Nazca revealed a brighter outline that resists erosion. No floods come, no storms pass, no vegetation reclaims. It is a kind of sacred vacuum where time's hand forgets to move. And so, the lines endure not through strength, but through stillness. A lesson, perhaps, from the desert itself, that sometimes silence preserves better than protection. That what is left untouched is not abandoned, but held in trust. Tonight, we walk among these preserved thoughts not as tourists, not as researchers, but as travelers of time's hush, and every footstep upon the sand is a heartbeat in a land that never forgot how to listen. Long before satellites traced their paths overhead, long before airplanes carved contrails through clouds, the Nazca people gathered beneath a boundless dome of stars. There, in the cool stillness of desert nights, rituals unfolded not in temples of stone, but in the cathedral of sky. They did not separate the sacred from the earthly. To walk a line in procession, barefoot across the dust, was to commune with the divine. To trace a spiral with a body was to echo the star's eternal motion. To gather upon a plane where figures sprawled larger than imagination was to stand at the threshold between worlds. Some researchers have suggested that these lines were ceremonial walkways passed to be walked in reverence, not merely looked upon. That perhaps to walk the monkey's tail, or to encircle the trapezoids, was to enact a prayer to large four words. Others suggest they marked points of celestial alignment that, when the solstice sun rose, it cast shadows along these lines, synchronizing the heavens with the earth. But none of these theories diminish the mystery, rather, they deepen it. For in ritual, mystery is not something to be solved, it is something to be entered. And the Nazca, in carving these great paths, may have created not messages to the gods, but invitations. We cannot know their prayers, but perhaps, by contemplating their silence, we may whisper our own. The desert appears barren, a place of thirst, of absence, of endless longing. But the Nazca understood that beneath the desolation, a river still moved. If one knew how to listen, their underground aqueducts, descending like corkscrews into the ground, these spiral wells harnessed the water trapped beneath the desert, guiding it gently to the surface. They did not fight the land, they danced with it. Some of the Nazca Lines, especially the spirals, may echo these sacred technologies. Some scholars suggest that the glyphs served as markers for underground reservoirs, or that they formed part of rain-inviting rituals. It is a haunting thought that the very dryness of the desert, so oppressive to outsiders, was not a curse, but a sacred canvas, a place where water did not fall, but was coaxed upward through understanding. And so, just as they drew birds across the desert floor, the Nazca drew water up from the earth, one through art, the other through science. Two forms of miracle, two kinds of survival. In this land of scarcity, nothing was wasted, not even silence. Some lines do not form animals, or spirals, or some are simply lines, miles long, perfectly straight, cut through the desert with divine precision. They lead nowhere, and yet they remain. Maria Reich, gazing at the rising and setting sun, noted how certain lines aligned with celestial events. She believed the lines were part of an immense solar calendar and observatory without walls. The Nazca may have walked these lines, watching where their shadows fell, noting where the first rays of light struck the horizon. No man needy. The desert itself became the sun. And while we may argue whether these alignments are coincidence or intention, the fact remains. The sky and the earth were not separate to the Nazca, they were one page of the same text. A calendar that you could walk, a ritual you could inhabit, a timekeeper etched in sunlit sand. What a gentle way to measure the year. Not in numbers, but in presence. Not with ticking clocks, but with footsteps. We often speak of the Nazca people as if they were a single voice, a single thought. But it was not one hand that carved these lines. It was many. Families, artisans, walkers of ritual, minds who dreamed in geometry. We will never know their names. They did not sign their work. They did not seek glory. But in every figure, there is care. In every straight line, there is precision. In every spiral, intention. We do not know what they looked like. We do not know their languages, their songs, their laughter, but we know they understood space and scale and stillness. And perhaps most importantly, they understood how to leave behind wonder rather than legacy. Not one of them rose to see their creation in full. They trusted the sky to witness it for them. Would we do the same? Could we, in this age of mirrors and monuments? They carved silence, and silence has endured. A whale in the desert, a condor with wings spread wide across the earth, a jaguar flamingo, a lizard divided by the modern road. These creatures do not roam or roar. They are not heard, only seen only from far, far above. Yet they remain motionless and enormous, like guardian spirits pressed into the land. Their forms are stylized, yet purposeful, each curve and angle measured, preserved, revered. Some of the animals are not native to the region. Some seem to reference myth more than biology. Their legs end suddenly. Their wings bend unnaturally. They defy the natural world while echoing its voice. Perhaps these were totems, symbols of power, drawn from the Nazca's dreamscape rather than the landscape. Or perhaps they are parts of a larger story, one now fractured by time. What matters is that they endure. They endure in stillness. They endure in silence. To see a hummingbird the size of a hill is to realize how small we are. To trace a condor's wings with your thoughts is to brush the boundary between art and belief. These creatures never move, and yet they have flown farther than any of us. And as you close your eyes tonight, dear dreamer, let them fly again on the canvas of your imagination. Progress does not always see what lies beneath it. In the 20th century, a highway was built across the desert, the Pan American Highway, stretching like a vein through the Peruvian coast. It brought movement, noise, connection, but it also split a geoglyph in two. A lizard whose precise form had survived 1,000 years of windless silence, was bisected by pavement and steel. It is a haunting symbol that even the most enduring messages can be interrupted by the noise of now. Yet still, the lizard remains. Still, the lines stretch around it, beyond it, undisturbed. It is a reminder, perhaps, that the past does not vanish. It waits. It lingers beneath the surface, quiet and patient beneath our hurried steps. And every road we build might someday be viewed from above, seen not as progress, but as interruption. Let us walk more carefully. Let us look beneath our own feet. For the earth may still be whispering. Some Nazca lines do not form animals, but angles. Long, straight lines, intersecting trapezoid, radiating fans of pathways that stretch beyond the horizon. To the modern eye, they appear as schematics or maps, but they are more than geometry. They are devotion, made visible. The scale alone requires faith. To draw a line 3 kilometers long knowing you will never see it hold requires a belief beyond reason. The angles are too perfect for chance. The pathways are too wide for randomness. They required planning, coordination, intention passed from one hand to another, perhaps over generations. And still, we do not know their purpose. Did they point to mountains? Did they map sacred energy? Were they walkways for rituals too vast to explain? Perhaps they are all of these, or perhaps they are meditations drawn not to be used, but to be made. A practice of discipline, of vision, of trust, to draw the invisible and believe it matters. In Nazca myth, the sky was not separate from the earth. The two were lovers, bound by breath and offering. The stars were not distant, they were kin. And so, the lines may be maps of constellations. The monkey may mirror Orion, the condor may echo Cygnus. The spider may trace the arc of the Milky Way. Some archaeologists suggest a kind of others see agricultural calendars tied to star cycles and seasons. But there is more than science here. There is longing. To draw a bird upon the ground is to believe it may fly again. To trace a star into the sand is to bring heaven closer. The Nazca lived in a dry, harsh world, but they reached upward. They shaped the desert into a prayer, one that began in earth and ended in sky. We lie beneath those same stars now, and perhaps, if we listen, they are still responding. Most places are shaped by the wind. It polishes the mountains. It sculpts the dunes. It carries voices away and brings new ones in. But here, on the Nazca Plateau, the wind forgets to breathe. It is this stillness that has preserved the lines not through strength or protection, but through absence. No rain to wash them away, no floods to sweep their edges, no wind to blur their message. This calm is not emptiness, it is guardianship. The desert has kept its promise. And in this quiet, we are reminded of something deep and slow. That time does not always move as a storm. Sometimes it waits, it watches, it remembers. And in places like this where even the air holds its breath, memory is not something you carry. It is something you walk upon. How tempting it is to solve a mystery, to pull apart the threads, to label, classify, define. The Nazca lines invite this urge. Are they maps, calendars, cosmic messages? Perhaps they are all, or perhaps none. To the Nazca, meaning may not have been singular. A line could be both a ritual path and a seasonal marker. A spiral could reflect water and spirit. A bird could be a totem and a tribute. And what if the true purpose was not in the result, but in the making? We want the lines to tell us something, but perhaps they were not meant to speak. Perhaps they were meant to witness. In our age, we confuse noise for knowledge, but in Nazca, they carved knowing into silence. Let us not rush to explain. Let us dwell instead in wonder. The desert is not quiet, it hums. Beneath the stillness, there is a vibration felt, not heard, a frequency tuned to patience. The Nazca felt it. They carved into it. Their lines echo this hum. We cannot hear their voices, but we feel their intention low and ancient. As the sun drops and the stars blink open, the hummingbird glows softly under twilight. The monkey's spiral absorbs the sky. The lines, long mysterious, seem to shimmer, not with movement, but with memory. There is a music here, but it is not played with instruments, it is played with presence, and you, listening now, are part of that song. You are not outside the mystery. You are within it. No birds call, no rivers run, no trees rustle in wind, and yet there is life. The desert breathes differently. It inhales centuries, it exhales dreams. This place, forgotten by rain, is not forsaken. It is focused, a place of ritual space, of sacred geometry, of stillness that speaks in curves and corners. To stand upon this land is to feel watched not by eyes, but by memory. The land has not forgotten those who carved it, and it has not forgotten what they meant to say. Even if we have, in the end, perhaps the Nazca lines are not messages. Perhaps they are dreams. Dreams made visible. Dreams that never fade. They mark a place where imagination took shape and soil, where belief was given form, where humans tried not to conquer the land, but to write upon it softly, We often speak of maps as tools, but what if they are mirrors? The Nazca Lines do not tell us where to go. They show us where we've been, and where we dreamed of going. Tonight, dreamer, you've walked a desert of questions. You've flown above the shapes. You've rested in their quiet shadows. And perhaps, as you close your eyes now, you carry a bit of that mystery with you. Not to solve, but to hold. Imagine a sunrise across the desert floor, the pale golden light creeping slowly over the plains. And as it rises, the long shadows of the Nazca Lines stretch, twist, and awaken. They do not move, of course, but the light makes them breathe. The hummingbird's beak points toward the dawn, the spiral of the monkey coils toward a deeper warmth. The lines, once invisible in darkness, emerge like sleeping giants in soft gold. Who were the hands that first saw this? Who stood quietly, barefoot in the chill of morning, and watched their work glow beneath a new sun? We cannot know, but the shadows they shaped still fall, still stretch, still return each morning to touch the lines once more. It is not just the figures that remain. It is the experience, the ritual of seeing, the patience of waiting. In a world of rush and noise, the desert offers slow revelation. And in that slow unfolding, we meet the past without demanding it speak. We only ask that it stay. The Nazca built 4 eyes above, but not airplanes, not satellites, not drones. They built for celestial eyes, eyes that watched eternally. Perhaps they believed the stars could see them. Perhaps they offered their glyphs not for gods to read, but simply to behold. A gesture of reverence, a carving of devotion, not to be answered, but witnessed. In this, the Nazca teaches something ancient, that not every act is a request. Some are offerings. Some are quiet ways of saying, I am here. I see the sky. I remember you. And so, when we look upon the Nazca Lines, we do more than observe. We join the gaze. We become part of the witnessing. And perhaps that is all that was ever asked. We create much today to be seen, to be consumed, to be shared, liked, applauded. But the Nazca carved their greatest works without any guarantee of being seen at all. No one could rise above them. No one could capture them whole. And still, they drew, with precision, with care. Art, it seems, was not about reaction. It was about presence. They did not seek fame. They did not seek credit. They only sought to make meaning visible, even if only to the earth or the sky. And in doing so, they created something timeless. What would you create if no one would ever see it? The Nazca's answer is still there, written in dust and devotion. We speak of history in words, in books, in voices, in echoes, but the Nazca wrote none. Their story is silence. Their book is the land. Their pages are lines too long to read and too still to forget. And yet, they tell us so much about patience, about mystery, about the need to reach beyond ourselves. They remind us that history is not only what is spoken, it is also what is traced, walked, and remembered. Their silence has become story because we have chosen to listen. And so we must keep listening, not just to the past, but to the stillness within it. Not every part of the Nazca Desert is marked. There are vast stretches where the sand lies untouched. But these blank spaces are not empty. They are breath. The spaces between the lines are part of the design. They allow the figures to exist. They give the shapes their meaning, like the pause between notes in a song, like the silence between words in a poem. The desert's unmarked places are sacred, too. They remind us that mystery needs space. That understanding is born not just in the drawing, but in the waiting. And as we breathe now slowly, quietly, we join that rhythm. One breath, one line, one moment of stillness, held between time's endless unfolding. To stand upon the Nazca Plateau is to see forever. The land stretches endlessly, its quiet surface rolling outward with no forest to block the gaze, no city to interrupt the line of thought. There, horizon and sky merge in a slow embrace, blurring distance and dissolving time. You could walk for hours and see no change in terrain. And yet, every grain of sand holds an ancient whisper. The lines, though few in number compared to the vastness around them, seem infinite in impact. Each one extends beyond its own form. A spiral turns into thought. A triangle becomes a path. A line is a question flung toward the cosmos. In such places, the horizon is not a border, it is a continuation. And to walk in that direction, without demand or destination, is to practice surrender. Let the sky expand above you. Let the line extend beyond meaning. Let the desert show you how to keep going, even in stillness. There is something sacred about the desert at night. No lanterns, no sound, just the sky and the sand, locked in eternal conversation. Under the silver gaze of the moon, the Nazca Lines shimmer faint, but they remember light. Some say that Nazca performed rituals by moonlight, that certain alignments can only be seen in the lunar silver, that the lines shift their voice when the sun is gone. And standing there, with stars burning cold above, It feels true. Night reveals what day disguises, and though the figures were meant for those who see from above, perhaps the night was when the Nazca themselves felt closest to them, as if the stars, in those hours, bent low to read what was written in the dust. The sand of Nazca does not record every footsteps vanish quickly. The lines, deeper, endure. It is a metaphor, perhaps, that most of what we do will fade. But some things, carved with care, will remain. The Nazca's pottery has broken. Their dwellings have crumbled, their language has disappeared. But these lines, their soft, deliberate touch upon the earth outlast them all. Not because they are loud, not because they are grand, but because they are patient in your own life. Dreamer, what footprints do you hope will remain, and what will the silence between them say? The Nazca Lines do not point toward cities. They do not lead to treasure. They do not unlock any vault, but they open something else. A doorway between what is seen and what is sensed. They are where the ground begins to speak in symbols, where the known world hands you a map to mystery. They are evidence that humans once knelt on dry ground, looked upward, and believed their gestures could echo in eternity. And in some way, they were right, for here we are, centuries later, still listening, still imagining, still wondering, and is the closest we come to immortality. As you close your eyes now, let the desert soften around you. Feel the hush of sand, the long, slow breath of distant time. Above you, stars continue their slow dance. Beneath you, the hummingbird sleeps, its wings curled into the horizon. The monkey coils into a spiral of dreams. The spider waits with still legs stretched across time. The Nazca did not leave us instructions. They left us a lullaby, a song written not in sound, but in silence, not in notes, but in lines. A lullaby too wide to sing, too quiet to hear, but felt deeply in the heart of sleep. Rest now, dreamer. Let the lines guide you inward. Let the desert hold you. Let the sky remember you. And when you wake, let wonder remain. You have walked beside whispers tonight, dear dreamer. Whispers that stretch across a land older than words and speak to a sky that never looked away. If these ancient echoes have stirred something within you, leave behind a gentle sign, like a soft gesture in the digital dust. Subscribe to this nightly voyage and return again to walk with forgotten time. Let us know, in silence or in word, from where you listen. What shore, what city, what realm of moonlit thought, for those scattered across the earth. We gather here united not by answers, but by wonder. Sleep well. The lines are still there, waiting, always.